going to show you guys exactly how to play Shadow Breeze Beginner's Edition for the War Within. So let's jump straight into it, guys. Let's start with the hero talents. We've got the first one, which is called Archon, and the second one, which is called Voidweaver. The main difference between Archon and Voidweaver is the fact that Archon focuses heavily on area of effect damage, AoE for short, okay? And Voidweaver actually focuses super hard on single target damage. Keep in mind though, if you choose to play Archon, you will be forced to pick this talent right here, which is called Halo, because Archon actually boosts the damage of your Halo for like crazy amounts, and your Halo actually is about like 30-40% of your total damage. And on the other side, you've got Voidweaver, which actually boosts the damage of your Mind Blast, and it actually transforms Mind Blast into a Void Blast, like giving you the opportunity to like deal crazy Mind Blast damage. If you're asking yourself right now what are the best stats for a Shadow Priest, well, the first one is going to be haste, okay? You can go towards 29% haste as a Shadow Priest in the War Within without suffering from diminishing returns. The next stat, which is also super important for Shadow Priest, is going to be versatility, depending if you focus on PvP or PvE, player versus player or player versus environment. If you do PvE, you don't want versatility, okay? You want to use all those points and stack them into your mastery or haste, okay? Avoiding the diminishing returns at all costs. However, if you do play PvP, you want to get your versatility around 20 to 30% versatility, and believe me, it's going to be a game changer. It's going to allow you guys to stay alive much longer against those marksmanship hunters, fury warriors, rogues, etc. So super important stat to focus on if you do PvP. And then you've got mastery, which is like, we're basically just putting points into mastery to avoid overstacking or haste and getting into the diminishing returns threshold, okay? And then finally, critical strike is going to be a stat that we absolutely want to avoid no matter the cost. All right, so now let's get into the basic stuff. How do you actually deal the damage as a Shadow Priest? Pretty simple. Shadow Priest is essentially a builder and spend spec. What I mean by that is that almost all of your spells, okay? So Mind Blast, Vampiric Touch, Shadow Crash, Shadow Word Death, Halo, your Void Torrent, even your Dark Ascension, they're all gonna build up your Insanity, which is right here, by the way. Okay, so I'm gonna build up my Insanity a little bit, and then what I'm gonna do, I will be spending all of my Insanity into Devouring Plague. So using Devouring Plague right here, your Devouring Plague actually deals some initial damage, and then it deals some dot damage over time. So your whole goal is to fill up your purple bar, your Insanity bar, as much as possible so you can actually dump as many Devouring Plagues as possible on your targets. Keep in mind that your Devouring Plague can actually be stacked on the target, so you can keep pressing your Devouring Plague and it's just going to deal more damage over time. Keep in mind, no matter if you play Archon or Voidweaver, the basic rotation for Shadow Priest never changes. So I'm going to show you guys exactly what I'm talking about. Number one rule as a Shadow Priest, you always need to apply your Vampiric Touch, okay, and your Shadow Word Pain, which is easily doable with the ability called Shadow Crash. I'm going to show you guys the skill tree right here. Shadow Crash is right here. Nowadays, you don't even need to cast your freaking Vampiric Touch. Okay, as long as you're playing with Shadow Crash, your dot damage is going to be applied right away on your targets. Yes, your targets, because it's AoE. It literally applies your Vampiric Touch and your Shadow Word Pain on, like, I think it's 8 targets at once. And you got 2 charges of Shadow Crash. So, super sweet that Blizzard actually improved Shadow Priest's gameplay. I'm super stoked for this change. Why is it so important to have Vampiric Touch applied on as many targets as possible? Just because of that one passive right there, which is called Psychic Link. Your direct damage spells inflict 40% of their damage on all other targets afflicted by your Vampiric Touch. So the more targets you have Vampiric Touch on, the more damage you're going to be dealing. By the way, Psychic Link actually deals like 30% of your overall damage. Okay, so you have Vampiric Touch and Shadow Word Pain applied on your targets. What are we supposed to do now? Well, we're going to be focusing on using a Mind Blast as often as possible. And if possible, we want to use Shadow Word Depth. Okay, those are our main priorities. And when you have nothing else to press, then we're going to be using Mind Flay. Keep in mind though, if we're actually playing with this passive right here, which is called Surge of Insanity, every 2 casts of Devouring Plague, which is your spender ability, it transforms your next Mind Flay into a more powerful spell. Which means the priority is going to change. It literally means that when you have Mind Flay Insanity ready to be pressed, okay, we're not going to be focused on using Mind Blast or anything else than our Mind Flay Insanity, as that ability actually deals some pretty good damage. Way better than your Mind Blast and your Shadow Word Depth combined. Another thing to keep in mind, if we're actually playing with Archon, what is going to happen is we gain access to a boosted up Halo. Okay, Halo, this ability right here. And when we use Halo, it is going to automatically give us some free Mind Flay Insanity that we're going to need to be spending. So when you're going to be pressing Halo, you're going to be focusing on spending your Insanity with your Devouring Plague. And you're going to be focused on spending any Mind Flay Insanity procs that you get. Think of it this way. If your goal is to build your resource, which is your Insanity, the purple bar right here, you will be focused on using Mind Blast and your Shadow Word Depth. A lot more, okay? Top priority. As well as keeping your dots active on as many targets as possible. But if we are actually bursting as a Shadow Breeze, you will be focused on spending all those Mind Flay Insanities. Alright, so let's burst as an Archon Shadow Breeze in the War Within. Again, we want to dot as many targets as possible. And then we want to use our Mind Blast a couple of times. Okay, our instant Shadow Word Depth. And then at this point, we got around like 30 Insanity. We could be using our Shadow Fiend to generate more Insanity, because that's literally what it does. Okay, I'm going to read out the targets. And at this point, we got almost half a bar of Insanity, which is a good time to actually start bursting, okay? So, I'm going to start the burst right here, and it's going to be pretty simple, guys, okay? What we're going to be doing, when I actually try to get as close as possible to 100% of our Insanity bar filled, right? And then we're going to start dumping our Devouring Plague as fast as possible and using our Mind Flay's Insanity. So, alright, so let's do it. I'm going to be dotting up the targets with Shadow Crash, and then I will be using Shadow Fiend straight up for Insanity generation. And then I will be pressing Dark Ascension into Halo to get as close as possible to 100% of my Insanity. And then we will be using Power Infusion to boost our burst damage, okay? Because that's when we're going to be dealing the most damage. And then we're going to dump a single Devouring Plague into Void Torrent. And then we're going to be alternating between using our Mind Flay Insanity procs and our Devouring Plague. So let's do it right now. We dot Shadow Fiend, Dark Ascension, Halo, and then we use all the bursts right now. Okay, so Devouring Plague, Mind Flay Insanity, 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 Mind Flay Insanity, Devouring Plague, Mind Flay Insanity. We use our Void Torrent. And then at this point, you need to keep your dots active on the targets. Okay, now I got no burst. I'm using Mind Blast. I'm going to use double Devouring Plague. Okay, Devouring Plague once more, and then Void Torrent. And I'm going to spend my Void Torrent proc. And then we need to read out the targets before the dots fall off. Perfect. And then what we're going to do now is spend our Mind Blast, since we're not bursting at the moment. We're just building. We're waiting 10 seconds to get our Void Torrent again in our Dark Ascension. We avoid overcapping by using our Devouring Plagues. And at this point, what we can do is actually use Dark Ascension, again, Halo, Devouring Plague. We use Void Volley. And then once again, we're going to be alternating between using our Mind Flayer Insanity and our Devouring Plague. Okay? Try to never overcap on your resource, which is your Insanity. Again, Mind Flayer Insanity in your Devouring Plague. That's literally how you want to deal the most damage as a Shadow Priest, guys. And as I was explaining, Psychic Link being your top damage, okay? Your passive ability that, by the way, all the top players in the whole world are using right now is Psychic Link, is dealing like 21% of your overall damage. Your Mind Flayer Insanity are actually dealing some quite amazing numbers. Also, 15% of your damage. Your Halo dealing, again, 15% of your overall damage. Devouring Plague, 9%. Like, look at it this way. Devouring Plague is just there to spend your resource to get more Mind Flayer Insanity, to get more resource to use your Devouring Plague more. It's literally, like, I don't know if that was clear enough. If you guys have any questions, just let me know down in the comment section. I'm going to link this build. And I'm going to also show you guys how to play the other hero talent, which is this one right here. Alright, so now that you know how to play Archon, let's jump straight into how to play Voidweaver, because there's a little bit of a difference, okay? So as Archon, we primarily use our Void Torrent, which is this ability right here, as a burst / generator, okay, for your Insanity. And we also use our Mind Blast as a generator. But as a Voidweaver, now your Void Torrent is going to be your big burst ability. And it's going to transform your Mind Blast into what is called Void Blast. And this is what's going to be dealing the most burst damage. Again, just to make it super simple, Void Torrent and Mind Blast as Archon, they're both generator abilities. But as a Voidweaver, they're literally your big damage burst abilities. So as a Voidweaver Shadow Priest, the process for Insanity generation does not change. The only thing that's going to change is our burst sequence. Okay, a burst sequence is literally going to be, as soon as we hit Void Torrent, we have a little bit of time to score as many Devouring Plagues and Mind Blast as possible. That's literally it. Okay? So, again, we will be trying to hit like 50% Insanity by generating it. Mind Blast. And then when we're ready to go, again, using Shadow Fiend, which is now Void Wraith, we're going to be using Dark Ascension into Divine Star. And then we're going to be hitting Power Infusion into Devouring Plague into Void Torrent. And at that point, we're going to be focused on using Mind Blast and our Devouring Plague as much as possible. Alright, so let's do it. We dot the target. Shadow Fiend, Dark Ascension, Divine Star. And now, this is when we're actually bursting. Mind Blast, Devouring Plague. Mind Blast, Devouring Plague. Mind Blast, Devouring Plague, Devouring Plague, Devouring Plague. Mind Blast, Devouring Plague. And then we start spamming Mind Flayer Insanity. Alright, we read other targets. And at this point, we're going to focus back using Mind Blast again, generating up until our next burst, which is right now. Apply Devouring Plague. I'm going to use our Void Torrent. And then we need to spam that Mind Blast again, Devouring Plague, Mind Blast, Devouring Plague, Mind Blast, Devouring Plague, as much as possible. And let's check the damage, okay? So you're supposed to be doing that every time. That's how you score the most damage possible. Psychic Link, now with this build, actually dealing 23% of our total damage, okay? And what's very important is Entropic Rift. what the hell is Entropic Rift? Well, as a Voidweaver Shadow Priest, when you use your Void Torrent, you have a couple of seconds to use as many Devouring Plagues as possible. And when you do, it actually creates an Entropic Rift that grows and deals way more damage the more times you actually press Devouring Plague. So the more times you're able to press Devouring Plague, the more damage your Entropic Rift is going to be dealing. And it's AoE too, so I hope this was clear. And on top of that, Void Blast being 10% of our total damage, okay? Critting for 4 million, 3 million normal hits. So, very important. You need to switch the playstyle in your head whenever you play Voidweaver or Archon. The priority actually changes. Hopefully this was clear. Hopefully I was able to explain it super well for you guys. If I didn't, just let me know in the comments down section. I'm a human, I'm not perfect, so if you have any more tips for us, just tell us, man. Let's grow as a community. Let's all get better together. Pretty much, man. That would be great. Let's jump straight into the macros, because I got a bunch of super cool macros for you guys, and you're gonna like them, okay? Alright, so this is my favorite macro. As a Shadow Priest, you're super slow, but you got two ways to actually boost your speed. The first one is going to be Body and Soul, which literally makes it so that whenever you use a shield on yourself, you're going to be running a little bit faster for 3 seconds or so. Then, the second one is going to be Angelic Feather. But the problem is, when you use Angelic Feather, you need to press your keybind and then repress the green circle on the ground to actually get the speed buff, okay? And I hate that. I've made a macro that automatically targets you, okay? And uses the Angelic Feather as soon as you press my macro, giving you guys the full speed buff right away just by pressing my macro. So what you can do is actually use an Angelic Feather and you start running super fast, and when it ends, you just use your shield and you keep moving super fast, and when it ends, you use my macro and you keep running. So you're always moving super fast as a Shadow Priest. And honestly, man, I wish I knew this macro before. So it's going to be linked down in the description and also in the comments section. Let's move to the other macros. The second one is pretty much a no-brainer, guys. You know how it is annoying to press Vampiric Embrace at the very perfect time when you're actually dealing your burst rotation? Well, with this macro, no more. Let's say I want to burst, okay? As soon as I want to burst, when I'm going to be hitting Power Infusion, it is going to give me Vampiric Embrace right away, okay? Those two cooldowns actually are the best combination possible, and honestly, it makes the gameplay so much easier for me, and it costs less keybind spots, if you will. Alright, so the next one is pretty simple, but I wouldn't be playing without this macro ever. You know how whenever you mind control a target, you literally cannot do anything, and you kind of need to wait up until mind control ends to actually do something? Well, with this stop casting macro, when you press it, it actually cancels your mind control right away, and it allows you to actually, you know, you can feel your target, whatever. So what I usually do, I would mind control the target for as long as possible, and if something bad happens, I just cancel it, stun my target into a fear or a silence, so you can actually keep the target CC'd for super long periods of time, and you can actually fight back if bad stuff happens, basically. And then I got this insanely useful macro that combines Desperate Prayer, okay, which heals you, with a Healthstone from a friendly Warlock. So of course you're going to be needing a Healthstone for this macro to have its full effect, but it literally makes it so that you have one less keybind to press. So it's going to be making your life a whole lot easier, guys. Alright, so hopefully guys enjoyed this beginner's guide for Shadow Priest for the War Within. If you did, please hit the subscribe button, the like button, applaud the video so more people actually get to see this video. Share this video to your friends who might want to learn how to play Shadow Priest. And hopefully guys have a ton of fun playing your Shadow Priest in the War Within. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully guys have a fantastic rest of the day. This was Clunky Doo. Stay awesome, gentlemen.